That's what Americans are angry about right now. I was in Washington, D.C. last week, and they run in packs like hyenas, and they're violent, and they're carrying guns, and they go no fist fighting, they go straight to shooting, and
Right.
I mean we're in the but it's because we have had no accountability on that level either. There's about 800,000 cases of missing children per year.
Yeah.
Now many of those.
I as well absolutely love the stuff that Sean Ryan's doing. I love the fact that he's not scared to go after traffickers and people who are harming kids. That is a big thing for me. Brandon and I have talked about, once this podcast takes off, that we are going to be doing philanthropic endeavors that are about protecting children and
we need it. I mean, look, right now in this country, we're timing wise, the media couldn't have asked the Guthrie case. Mm-hmm. So down in Tucson,
yes, sir.
It's sad. You know, so an 84-year-old grandmother goes missing, and I feel for the family, and but at the same time, right? It was convenient for the media to have this case to focus on when we were getting the drop of all these files that were telling us how children are being abused, and 3 million plus documents. First of all, if the FBI wasted the time and the money, and I don't want to say, when you say wasting, please let me clarify this, because I don't want people to think they took the time and the money to accumulate 3 million plus documents and videos, and you didn't charge anybody?
Yeah, right.
What a waste of taxpayer dollars if indeed that is the case. But it wasn't a waste, because they did find it, but they didn't do anything with the information. It appears that the only people that Epstein was arrested ultimately, and then Ghislaine, which I don't know, I'm seeing pictures lately that I'm questioning whether it's even the right Ghislaine in there.
Same.
And I'm really dubious, and I've always been dubious because of how that played out, as to whether or not Epstein was ever.
Right.
So there's a lot to it. But what I find is that the media is very willing to just focus on this over here.
Sure.
And at the same time, that isn't, yes, let's find her. But I wish we gave this type of attention for every child that goes missing in this country.
Absolutely.
And there's tens of thousands. As a matter of fact, in 2024, and I would guess that the number is probably about the same because they're pretty consistent, there's about 800,000 cases of missing children per year.
Yeah.
Now, many of those immediately they're resolved. Child comes home. Maybe it's a parent who took the child when they were, didn't return the child. A lot of those calls are that.
Yeah.
But there were 29,000 cases in 2024 where NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, worked with law enforcement on those cases. Yeah. And there's about 150, 200 cases per year of children who are abducted by people they don't even know.
Right.
So how are we not hyper-focused on those cases every day? And why not give those families the same type of treatment that we're giving this family down here? I've done countless interviews, and I've actually said this on interviews. I've said, look, I hope that the media gives the same attention to the children that go missing in this country as you're giving to this case.
Right. But I don't think that they could, because they would be over inundated with the amount of kids that end up going missing.
But maybe the kids don't go missing to that level.
Right.
If you actually helped find them and reported them and and brought traffickers down and held people accountable that were found to be trafficking. Look, for the last 4 years under the Biden administration, our tax dollars were being shoveled out to NGOs, non-governmental organizations, who were then using that money to aid and abet in the trafficking of human beings and drugs into this country, but primarily human beings in those last 4 years, many of those of which were children. Yes. And then those children, to the tune of about 140,000 a year, were coming in unaccompanied minors. They would then get turned over to the government, and the government, what we found out, was turning the majority of them back over to the traffickers who brought them in. They would all have the same address written on their arms.
Yeah.
And then they're turning them back over to the traffickers. We were literally funding, as Americans, we were funding through these NGOs the trafficking of children into this country.
Right.
And who's held accountable for that?
Nobody.
Nobody. And that's what Americans are angry about right now. I was in Washington, D.C. last week, and I met with several congressional members in different groups. And they were talking to me, and we're talking about policy and, you know, these different things, bills that are coming up to vote on and all this stuff. And I told them, I said, look, you guys live in a bubble where you think policy matters to the average American. The average American doesn't care about policy. What they want is accountability.
Absolutely.
What they want is for you to start holding people at a high level accountable who break the law. I was a gang and drug detective for many years on the Indian reservation where I worked. And I remember, I spent years doing it. I remember one interview very clearly where I arrested this guy, and I'm sitting there interviewing him, and he's a gang member. And he's like, you know, Lamb, he said, we're not the real criminals. He goes, the real criminals wear 3-piece suits and a tie. And I was like, he's not wrong. They're the real criminals, because what they, you know, a street criminal, they will assault you, they may steal from you, they may kill you. The white collar criminals will crush you. Right. And they will leave you on the. They'll take everything you have. They'll crush your reputation. They will do all of it without a care in the world, like you were an ant on the ground.
Right.
And they don't even have the decency most of the times to kill you. They leave you destitute or poor or completely broken. And really, what is more of a callous crime than somebody who just crushes you and ruins your life?
Well, there is something to be said. Not saying that it justifies it. However, there is something to be said that the lower level crimes are being committed by people looking for opportunity, as where it seems to be when it comes to blue collar crime. They just get their jollies off by being horrible humans.
Well, it's about power and money.
Right.
You know, it's about power and money to a certain extent on the street too. A lot of it is about respect. A lot of it is about, you know, it's mostly about respect. A lot of the violence that occurs is because these young kids want respect, but they have their actions merit no respect. It's not like the old school gangsters who had a code that they lived by. These OG gangsters had a code. These kids don't have a code. They run in packs like hyenas, and they're violent, and they're carrying guns, and they go no fist fighting. They go straight to shooting, and I mean, we're in but it's because we have had no accountability on that level either. We've taken the accountability. We're like, oh, you know, this poor kid, you know, the color of his skin matters, or he was raised in this poverty, you know, in the projects, so we can't really hold him accountable. And this is the problem we've gotten in this country, where the justice system, I think, is broken. It's broken at the highest levels. It's broken at the lowest levels. If either one of you commit a crime or me, you better believe you'll go to prison. No. You'll get arrested. You'll get charged. A little street kid who goes out, commits crimes. How many times do we hear about somebody that's back on the street and they got 14 open cases, serious cases like homicide, burglary, assault, and we're letting them back out because judges feel like their upbringing was wrong or was unfair or whatever it is. And so it's a dangerous place to be in society. We're not holding this level to account because we feel bad for their situation, and we're not holding this level to account because they can control everything that would hold them accountable. Right. And so Americans, I think, are just fed up. And so going back to my point, I told these guys, I said, if you don't start putting handcuffs on people of significance in this country, we're going to lose the American people. We're at the doorstep of a revolution, and it won't take much to kick that off. And I think a lot of Americans who just wanted to be left alone, those people who are truly dangerous men who have learned how to really control it and use it for good, You don't want to kick that bear or that dog and wake him up.
What do you think is the limit to that? Because I have conversations with older generations, people in their 70s and 80s, talking about how that everybody today has just enough. They've got their internet, they've got their cell phone, they've got what else has to happen to tip that? Because I agree with you. I think the experience is that people are getting more and more upset. I mean, it's at some point. I mean, groceries are so wildly expensive. Is that the fulcrum? Is that the point where it's like, you know what, groceries are a second mortgage now and nobody has it? Is that when everybody's going to kick back?
So it's a Zen koan. I remember, if you watch the show Billions, there's a part where you've probably seen this clip on social media where she's like, well, what do I do in this situation? He's like, this is a classic Zen koan. He goes, let's say you got a professor that says, pick up that stick, and if you pick it up, he's going to hit you with it. If you don't pick it up, he's going to hit you with it. And so when the situation becomes untenable, he says, you break that effing stick.
One of my favorite scenes in that whole show.
The situation is becoming untenable. We have hope that we can put the right people in place to bring accountability, to bring our country back to where it was. Even in the Declaration of Independence, the founding fathers had the foresight to say, if the government becomes to where it's not a good government, it's the responsibility of the people to change it. And so it's in our nature to get to that point. Now, I think our government is far out of control. The founding fathers, they would have never have let this taxes get to where it's at. This is legal plunder. They pass laws to really steal from you. It's still stealing. It's still plunder. They just passed a law that says it's legal. It doesn't make it okay. They just made it legally okay to do it. The average American has been okay. We're not okay with it, but we've been like, all right, look, I'll pay the stupid taxes. But I think you're finding all this fraud. And so now people are saying, I'm not paying the taxes anymore,
right,
because you guys are frauding what they just recently said, $115 billion a day, or excuse me, $115 million a day of fraud in this country. We're $39 trillion in debt. And we keep spending like drunken sailors. No offense to the sailors out there. I mean,
they spend a lot. It's okay. They know.
It's becoming untenable. And so you leave, it's a Zen koan. Either you smack us if we pick up the stick, and if we don't pick up the stick, you smack us with it. So at some point, the American people say, this situation is untenable. I have no other option but to break the stick.
I'm sure you've probably heard people talking about peptides. It piqued your interest, you looked into it, but you don't know what source to trust. A lot of this stuff is coming out of China. If you're looking for a good quality peptide that's made in the United States, go to helixpure.com.